Hey everybody, it's Rachel. Okay, so I'm back again in an unscheduled video to probably make a lot of people mad again, but not for the fun of it, for the necessary of it. Because when something feels this wrong, I can't just scroll past and sip my coffee like it's fine. It's not fine. There are moments in history when you realize you're not just watching events unfold, you're being shaped by them. When the choices we make, or the ones we avoid, quietly stack up into something massive, something we never meant to be part of. And in those moments, it's tempting to shut it all out, to say that doesn't affect me directly, or it can't be as bad as people say. But what if it is? What if it's worse? I'll be honest, I hate making these kinds of videos. I don't want to talk about this. It makes me incredibly uncomfortable, and it's not what I ever pictured myself doing when I started this channel. Honestly, I'm not even sure what I'll talk about next, or if I'll talk about anything at all. But this just feels too important to ignore, and I'd be shirking a lot of responsibility if I didn't say something. So here we are. What if one of the most dangerous lies we tell ourselves is that staying quiet means staying neutral? I know some of this might be hard to hear. Honestly, it's really hard to say, but I would rather risk discomfort, mine and yours, than stay quiet about something that feels this wrong. People are seeing horrific things unfold and not just justifying them, but agreeing with them enthusiastically, sharing them like they're memes, wearing their approval like a badge of honor. And then there are others, the quieter ones, who are still involved, not by cheering it on, but by pretending it isn't happening, saying it's complicated or I don't know enough about it. Not because they're cruel, but because it's easier to believe it's not that bad. But here's the thing. Pretending not to see cruelty doesn't make it go away. It makes you part of it. This isn't new. History is littered with people who looked the other way. Good people, decent people, people who believed in God, family, country, and kindness. People who, when faced with cruelty, chose silence because it was easier than discomfort. Hannah Arendt called it the banality of evil, the idea that evil isn't always monstrous and loud. Sometimes it's quiet, bureaucratic, wrapped in a flag and handed to you with a smile, and all you have to do to let it grow is absolutely nothing. To be clear, the banality of evil does not mean evil is ordinary. It means ordinary people, the ones you'd never expect, can become part of evil systems when they stop thinking critically, when they lean on cliches, when they do what they're told because it's easier than facing hard truths. It's not always hate that drives harms. Sometimes it's just compliance, and that's what makes it so dangerous. Carl Jung wrote about the shadow, the parts of ourselves we refuse to face. When we don't deal with our fear, our prejudice, our capacity for cruelty, we project it outward. We dehumanize others so we don't have to deal with what's inside us. It's a trick the mind plays to avoid the hard work of self-confrontation. Now, before we go any further, I'm going to acknowledge the obvious here. I am betting there are a lot of people who will tune out here if they haven't already. Maybe because they think they already know where this is going. Maybe because it feels too heavy or too close to home. But I'm asking you, if you're still here, to hear me out, just for a few more minutes. Right now, there are people, maybe people you know, maybe even you, who are justifying the unjustifiable, saying, well, they shouldn't have broken the law, as if crossing an imaginary line to escape violence or poverty or to make a better life somehow makes a child or an adult less human. As if the punishment for desperation should be detention, deportation, or indefinite processing in inhumane conditions. As if the suffering is somehow deserved. But that kind of thinking does not exist in a vacuum. It shows up in other places too, quietly, subtly, where we start deciding who gets to be seen and who doesn't. It's not just happening in detention centers. It's happening in laws and policy, in classrooms, in decisions being made behind closed doors. Veterans who serve this country who can't get basic health care. Women are being silenced, sidelined, and stripped of autonomy under the guise of morality. Entire communities are watching their stories, identities, and rights be erased. People who were already marginalized are being pushed even further into silence. That, too, is part of it. When we stop telling the truth or allow others to decide which truths are comfortable enough to keep, we are participating in the cycle of harm. There is a facility operating right now, not in theory, not under construction, but built, staffed, and active, that some reports have described as dangerously inhumane. They've called it Alligator Alcatraz because of where it's located and how it operates. But you don't need that kind of name to understand the problem. It's a mass detention center for immigrants that, by multiple accounts, is more about punishment than process, and the conditions are reportedly horrifying. Yes, it's in the United States, and yes, this is happening under our watch, and they're talking about building more. And some people support this, not because they're unaware, but because deep down they think the people being detained are getting what they deserve, or they believe the trade-offs are worth it, or they're convinced that the cruelty serves a greater good. That is how this crap gets normalized, not just through lies, but through justification. I know some of you voted hoping for a better life, safety, stability, maybe even justice. But if you look closely, that is not what we're getting. Those gains are not trickling down to you. They are heading straight up. The Bible says, whatever you did for one of the least of these, you did for me. It's Matthew 25:40. If we say we live by biblical values, if we claim faith as our compass, then compassion, justice, and care for the vulnerable are not optional. They are central. The Stoics taught that virtue is the only true good. Marcus Aurelius wrote, if it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. It's not complicated. It's not a debate. If something is inhumane, it's wrong. Buddhism teaches us to see clearly, to resist delusion, to act with compassion. We suffer because we separate ourselves from others. We dehumanize. We forget that we all want the same things: safety, love, dignity. Thoreau said, let your life be a counter-friction to stop the machine. That machine is turning right now, and it's running on indifference. Some of the promises that were made aren't the promises being kept. They're being twisted, fudged, dressed up as one thing while delivering another. We're being told we're gaining, but what we're getting is less, while the people at the very top take more. The benefits are not trickling down. They're being siphoned upward, and people are cheering it on, or they're turning the channel, or they're telling themselves it's not that bad, because in some ways, people are getting what they asked for, or at least what they were told we'd get. No tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security. Those sound good on the surface, but look closely. You are not getting what you think you're getting. Meanwhile, the cost of everything, groceries, housing, healthcare, keeps rising. Wages are not keeping up. Services are being stripped. Protections are being quietly rolled back, and the weight is falling the hardest on those who can least afford it. Please, all I am asking is to pay attention to the reality of what we're getting here. Not just the slogans, not just the promises, not the tweets meant to appease you, the reality. And the real question becomes, is everything else that's happening, the cruelty, the erosion of rights, the degradation of basic human dignity, worth that? If we claim to value humanity, character, faith, and justice, then we have to ask ourselves if what's being gained on paper is worth what's being lost in spirit. This is where you ask yourself, are you really okay with this? Because history remembers silence. It remembers who said something and who didn't. You don't have to scream. You don't have to fight online, but you do have to see it. And once you do, you can't unsee it, and you can't walk it back. If you claim to believe in character, decency, faith, love, in honor, now is the time to prove it. Not by arguing, by noticing, by refusing to go numb. Don't become what you purport to hate. Don't let silence be your legacy. Ask questions. Stay awake. Hold your leaders accountable. Refuse to dehumanize. You don't have to stay in the bubble. You can wake up today and choose differently tomorrow. That's what conscience is for. This isn't about left or right. This is about right and wrong. And if we can't see that now, we're going to answer for it later. Thanks for watching. As always, take care of you, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.